Today, we look back at my final conversation with Chris Cornell of Soundgarden, Temple of the Dog, Audioslave, and more. He joined me to talk about his amazing solo album, Higher Truth, how music is a fantastic time machine, old mutual friends, and what made Cornell realize that music was the most important thing in his life. Out of all the conversations I ever got to have with Chris Cornell, this is far and away my favorite, just because there is a lightness to him that I'd never experienced before. Please enjoy. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to get right into it now.
Right on.
If you had to pick one artist or a record or maybe a performance or a show that made you go, this is it, I have to do music, what would that be for you?
Well, it would be the Beatles, and it would kind of be their whole catalog. I think I kind of got, I think I was more sort of attracted to the middle of it, you know, at first, especially the Revolver, Rubber Soul, Sgt. Pepper's part of it. And it wasn't so much, I didn't have that moment like a lot of guys had it with Kiss. Mm-hmm. When they saw Kiss for the first time and thought, that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, people had that with Roy Orbison. You know, guys would see him and some switch would flip in them. I didn't have that in terms of believing that I could do it. What happened was I had it in terms of me believing that music was going to be maybe more important to me than anything, even if it's just as a listener, even if it's just as a fan. I realized, I care more about music than anything else. This is cooler than anything else. This is more important to me. I would rather spend my time sitting in my room alone listening to these records than doing anything else. It was that kind of thing.
And how do you think a band like the Beatles affected you moving forward when you did eventually become a musician, not only when you first started out in Soundgarden, but all the way until now when you've made an unbelievable record in Higher Truth?
What ended up happening is as I got older and I got into when punk rock happened and then post-punk indie and all that, I had this very solid sort of base and understanding of songwriting and record production from just being this crazy avid listener to the entire Beatles catalog. And what is in their entire catalog is everything. They were not afraid of taking any kind of musical influence from anything any one of them was into at the time and trying to adapt it to a Beatles record. They sort of were so huge as pop stars that they suddenly had this freedom to sort of do whatever they wanted, and it was the first time in pop music that had ever happened. And that, you know, kind of in a weird way made my career what it is in a sense. They made it okay for me to be me.
That's amazing. What age would you say you were when you realized music was more important than anything else?
8 or 9.
So you're pretty much predestined. And looking back over things, you're doing these acoustic shows now, which are incredible because they're this intimate, broken down thing. Do you kind of like relive the moments that you were writing those songs, and do they when you're playing those songs in that way, does it sort of transport you back to who you were and what you were doing at the time where you were picking up maybe an acoustic guitar to write these songs in the first place?
Yeah, I think music is actually an unbelievably efficient time machine, definitely psychologically and in terms of memory triggers and muscle memory. I can pick up a guitar and go to sort of relearn a song I haven't played in 20 years, and all of a sudden I remember the room I was sitting in. I remember someone called while I was doing it. I'll remember all kinds of strange, immediate things, and it seems like no time has gone by at all.
Wow.
And some people, I think, have a connection with music more so than others in terms of memory triggers. And for me, I tend to remember things based on a song was playing or some type of a musical association was happening that has me kind of keyed into it.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it. I was like picking up an acoustic guitar, which is, I'm guessing, how maybe a lot of your songs started, and sort of sitting down and playing them in that way when you play solo and acoustic. It's got to be like picking up old yearbooks for other people.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think. The difference between picking up an old song and the yearbook analogy is that songs are adaptable and alive and moving. And rather than just reminiscing and listening and playing back and thinking, oh yeah, and there we were, there I was, and this is what I was thinking, you can change it. It can evolve. You can actually literally rewrite it to where all of a sudden it fits right next to a song you wrote 10 minutes ago, and it all makes perfect sense. And you also know that can happen again 20 years later. That's the amazing thing about songs and music and songwriting.
Soundgarden, far and away, one of my favorite bands ever. So next level, so creative and different. And Temple of the Dog, just an incredibly inspired, passionate record, which I think is some of my favorites of your work, just because, like you said, it was sort of a snapshot of where I was at in my life, and it really struck me at a time that makes it very visceral for me. And Audioslave, when I saw you live, was just this band that makes you want to break stuff and start your own personal mosh pit. And your solo stuff, though, some of the most beautiful things I've ever heard, like Long Gone and the new one, Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart, just beautiful, beautiful songs. But when I think of your body of work, I tend to want to hear all of it live. And I remember the first time I saw you play solo, and I was like, with every other band where the singer goes solo, you kind of want them to get back together. I was like, with this guy, not so much. I want to be able to experience everything from his catalog all at once. But have you gotten to the stage in your life where you have a preference in terms of what you're doing and when you're doing it?
Well, I think that it became obvious to me probably in 2010, 2011, when I was doing both. I was doing songbook touring, which is really just me and a guitar, coming off the road, working on songs for Higher Truth, and then simultaneously, recording and releasing, writing, recording, and releasing with Soundgarden, touring with Soundgarden, realizing that I have both these things going, and they're so different than each other. They're in such huge contrast, and how amazing is that? And it really is amazing. It's like I feel like I kind of have the best of all worlds. I'm not wanting for anything. There's nothing really missing creatively.
Well, I have to say, I think you are hitting a creative apex. It's a new height with Higher Truth, and I think, look, you have a body of work that is incredible and speaks for itself. But I think this will go down in the history books as being some of the greatest work you've ever done. Really, really loving everything that I've gotten a chance to hear from the new album. So, congratulations on that. It's an amazing record.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, Chris Cornell, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for an incredible piece of work that is your new album, Higher Truth, which is out now. And on a super quick personal note, when I was a kid, I was in a band. We were signed to the same record label as you, A&M Records.
Oh, okay.
Part of the joy of it was walking through the halls of the record label and knowing, like, hey, Soundgarden, we're here, at some stage in the game, and like, you laugh, but it's totally true. Never got to run into you guys, or never got to meet you personally after Soundgarden was done the first time. But one of the greatest guys that I ever got to meet was the artist development guy at A&M, a guy called Al Marks. And one of the greatest times that I ever had was just hanging out with him, hearing him tell stories about what it was like to be on the road with Soundgarden and about you guys. And me and the rest of the guys in my band just sat absolutely enthralled as Al Marks, one of the few greats in the music business, told stories about you, one of the other few greats in the music business. And Al has kind of stuck with me as a friend and a mentor over the years, and has such incredible things to say about you. I speak to him all the time, and I know for a fact that Al Marks sends you all the love in the world.
Well, thank you for that. He's a really close friend of mine, and that's nice of you to give him a shout out. I'll give him a shout out too. Hey, Al. I will see Al when I get to Alstown, which is now in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right on. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I'm going to echo something that Al said when I told him I was going to be doing this interview. Soundgarden should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This new album of yours, Higher Truth, should win a Grammy. Thank you so much for making the time. Chris Cornell, you are the best.
All right. Thanks very much.